Hello, welcome back. My name is Joanne. Welcome to my garden. I have 67 raised beds in my garden, and this is bed number 75. It is a blueberry bed. I have 3 blueberry beds. This is what I call the first bed. I have a second bed and a third bed, so which would make 3. Okay. All right. Rocket science. I only was admitted. I never never took the classes. So let's get weeding. I love the pop of weeds. I love the pop of weeds. So I ate a lot of the blueberries. Not one blueberry made it into the house this year, not even to show somebody. I ate them all out here. Well, me and the birds. The birds got some too. Right now I'm being stalked by a robin who keeps watching me. She keeps flying down and looking to see if I'm going to throw her some snails, some tree snails. And my trusty shovel, but this comes out pretty easy. This is peat moss, and it is sustainable Canadian peat moss. This bed was heavily amended with peat moss, which is nice because it actually helps to hold the moisture. Although I still might mulch because I am just finding that it's just not enough. And the weeds love to grow the peat moss. They really do. I thought for sure that the acidic count would make it so that weeds wouldn't like it here. Nope. Weeds love it in the peat moss. There's usually a thick growing of them, even after I come through and weeded and got rid of a lot of the roots. Oh, I just love the sound of that popping. I hope you can hear that. Move over, bubble wrap. I've got a better way. And actually the popping sound is me not getting the roots out, because usually that popping sound is the plant breaking free from the roots. Now, sometimes it's the roots breaking free from the ground, but so a lot of times when you do heavy weeding like this, you have to come back. You are not going to get all these roots, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you put your fingers on it and grab the roots. There's going to be persistent roots under the soil, and you're going to have to come back and get them. I finally went out and splurged on some metal tags that I could put labels on. And I'm liking them, but then when I go to weed, they're in my way because they help the weeds grow, I think. I don't know. So it looks like this bed is mostly grasses, some clover. Now, it's called something else. I can't remember what it's called. For some reason, wood sorrel is coming to mind. I do have some thistles in this bed. Now, a lot of the thistles that I have, even though they can spread by the rhizomes, mine usually go down, and I don't have runners of them. I don't know where my bin is. I'll put those aside. I also get ragweed and a few other wild plants in here. And it's not that the plants are bad. It's just that I don't want them in my pretty little raised bed, and I don't want them competing with space with the plants that I am trying to grow or cultivate. This is my formal raised bed garden. I grow vegetables and herbs and pollinator flowers and milkweed, which I don't know. I'm thinking that monarchs are pollinators. They go from flower to flower. So by default, they must pollinate. My daughter and I have really been watching a monarch, and she just made a chrysalis, which we found out that there's a difference between a chrysalis and a cocoon. She's not in a cocoon, she's in a chrysalis. We say she, but we don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but as soon as she gets wings, we'll be able to tell, apparently. You can tell the butterflies apart. The males have little dots, and the females don't. Here's a grass that is going to seed. I do believe that is ragweed. A lot of these weeds are spread by seeds, but once they get established, they will come back up through the root system that they've developed. So you can take the top off a plant and it thinks it's been eaten, so it will grow again. Saying, whoop, well, somebody ate me, I better grow again. I'm a sucker for a volunteer plant, especially tomato. Even though I don't know its variety, although sometimes you can tell the difference when you're growing tomatoes. I grow the little Tom Thumb or red cherry tomatoes, and you can just tell their leaves are so tiny when they come up, and the tomatoes themselves are tiny. Then you get your cherry tomatoes; they're usually in bunches, and then your bigger tomatoes. So you can kind of, it's not that you can tell the variety, because if you've got a wild seed, it could have cross-pollinated, although tomatoes are less likely to cross-pollinate. More likely the ones that are going to be volunteers are going to be your Tom Thumb tomatoes or your cherry tomatoes. And the reason I say that is because those are the ones that the birds and the critters usually grab first. They don't always grab the big ones. The big ones they'll use for getting water, but they won't always take the whole plant. Now, if you leave it there, oh, that was a thick root. If you leave it, tomatoes on the ground, of course you're going to get the varieties to come back up. But moving around a little bit here. Oh, actually, look at these. Now, if you have any questions about the garden or something that you see, ask me. I might not know the answer, but I will try. I can look it up with you, or because I've seen it with my own eyes, sometimes I can identify it a little bit better. North Country Blueberry. No, that can't be the one in the end because you have tag. That's got to be probably the guy in the middle. I keep forgetting to look these up and then write them down. This one here says Sweetheart Blueberry. When I bought them from different places. So that's why they have different tags. These I bought online from Stark Brothers. The next set, I do believe I got those at the nursery. Those are nursery blueberries. And I don't remember the third one. I think the third one might have been M.I. Gardner when they were still selling the blueberries. I don't think they're doing the rootstocks anymore. I think they've gone back to seeds. I thought he had some kind of announcement. I could be wrong on that. But M.I. Gardner is a great source. I will never stop singing his praises, Luke's praises, and his team for the videos that they put out and the information that they give you about growing things, especially since I'm a vegetable and herb gardener. It's nice. When gardens first came out, it seemed like almost all gardens were flower gardens. But I don't know. I like to visit flower gardens. I don't like to tend to them because to me, I want to be able to snack when I'm out here. So, and bring things in. Okay, this weed I know. And the name completely escapes me. Maybe this one is. No, there's the. No. Yeah. Maybe this will be my weed today. Let's see what this is. Let me see. Am I getting it on camera? No, of course not. I have to come around the other side. I use my phone. So there's the top of the weed. There's the stem. And then there's the roots. This one's got a nice, really, really long taproot on it. Hold it sideways, you can see it. So there's the plant. And there's the top. Maybe this one is ragweed. I'm not sure. I will post it when I find out. That would be my weed of the day. These tend to have very thick stalks. And so they're tough. And they're because of that root that you see, they're really hard to pull out of the ground. So, but you want to get as much as you can. You always want to get as much as you can out of a root. So, because the plant will think it's been eaten at its top and it will try to grow back. So you don't want these things to be in your garden if that's not what you planted. Now, if I planted these, then I'd be like, oh, good. It's in my garden. So I will look that plant up. I'm going to switch the camera to the other side, even though I didn't finish that corner. I did this bed, which is bed number 75. I did this early on when I started YouTubing. So you can go find it what it looked like before. It was really crazy overgrown. And now it is not as bad. Let's start here. When I was coming here to eat the blueberries, I was picking out some of the weeds. But my whole garden has been just an overwhelming mess this year to clean up. So I'm just trying to sustain what I have to sustain. So I'm spending a lot of my time now weeding my things that I've planted. And now I'm getting back to weeding some of the ones that I've been ignoring. And then I come back and reweed because I'm not getting all the roots. Although this, again, is peat moss. And it's sustainable Canadian peat moss. I will put that in there. Last thing I want, I mean, there's a lot of judgment on the internet, and I have seen rude comments. And it's not that I don't have a thick enough skin to take a rude comment. It's just that I would rather diffuse the comment before it comes. You know, I think that a lot of the gardeners out there, you should just give them credit for doing something, anything. They're trying to grow something. They're trying to make the world a little better place. They're not just growing a dead lawn that, you know, gets that pollinators won't visit, that they have to spray to maintain. I mean, and not that, and you know what, and I'm going to take that back a little bit, because you know what, if that's what you want, if you want a beautiful, green, lush garden with no weeds in it, all the power to you. Like, go ahead. It's your yard. You do what you want. But don't judge other people because they, you know, want to grow, and maybe they have to use a peat moss that maybe isn't sustainable, but they're at least growing something, you know. And I think most of that has stopped now. I think that there's limitations on places where they do get the peat, because, you know, the peat company doesn't want to go into business any more than they want to sell everything and go. Maybe they do, I don't know. Some accountant somewhere probably worked out some numbers and said, well, we can make our shareholders happy today. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm ragging on accountants, only because I was one. And you bean counters out there, most of you are just trying to keep track of things. I'd say a majority, 99.9% of you. But it's the ones who are only for the profit, the ones who use the word leverage a little too much. And you know what leverage is? It means debt, going into debt, letting somebody else pay the bill. Well, if we leverage this, you know, we know the power of leveraging. Leverage, you know, just a little leverage here will work it out. No, it's debt. It has to be paid back. And, you know, companies that go into bankruptcy, I'm sorry, just you did that on yourself. I mean, yeah, maybe there was extraordinary circumstances, but I'm going to tell you, most of the time, you know. I mean, I know that there was a lot of extraordinary circumstances that just came up a few years ago for everybody. And I worried about one of those companies because they relied on people being together. And now nobody can be together. So I know that they went through tough times, but they were never, hopefully, at least when I was there, they were never heavily leveraged. And I think they fared, you know. So I don't understand this craziness sometimes with big corporations. Maybe because I never worked, well, I did work for a big company, but I didn't like it. I liked smaller companies where you felt ignored on a personal level instead of a big level. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, the best company I ever worked for, I mean, I directly reported to the president and the vice president of the company. And it was a great, awesome experience. And I was the head of accounting. And I have to say, and I had somebody working with me, and that person, she was awesome also. Like, she could have filled my shoes in a heartbeat, and actually she did. And I am so grateful sometimes when you have an employee underneath you that is just, and I never even thought of her as underneath me. I just thought that she was the partner in working with me. We worked together. She did certain tasks, I did other tasks. I asked her about things, clarified things, made sure things were in order, and she did a lot of work. She was just an awesome. I think she's retiring. And I hope they got somebody in there that's good. I shouldn't be pulling that because that's probably a blueberry root. You got to be careful with pulling roots, pulling weeds, because if you disturb the roots of the plant that you are cultivating or growing, you could do it harm. So I'm noticing that there's a lot of roots here. Blueberries tend to be a surface root type of plant. And so that's why I stopped pulling, because I think I was pulling a root from the blueberry. And I don't want to do that because if that was, and it probably was, I've just harmed that blueberry. But these are mostly surface, and these are coming right out with the peat. The peat does help to keep the soil moist, so even though I've had a lot of dry conditions, and some of the reasons I left the weeds too is because I know that they were providing coverage to the soil. I'm going to have to really get in here around this guy. Sorry, guy. Switch to the other side. Continue. I really do like the videos where you see the person's face and they talk to you. But I also like the videos where they clean and they mow and you don't really see their face, but you see them working back and forth. And I kind of want to be more towards that because, I don't know. I just think that the subject is more important than the person. And it's great to have somebody explain it to your face to face, but it's also nice to see it for yourself. So you get to see this bed being cleaned out. You get to see me pulling these weeds out. You get to see what I used to see when I used to work with my aunt in her garden. She used to just come out here and just talk. Sometimes it was about work. Sometimes it was about the garden. Mostly about the garden. She used to just talk to me about the garden, what she's doing, why she's doing it. And she was born in 1931, my aunt, because she was 10 years older than my mom. So that gives you a little bit of perspective on timeline there. But she always had a garden. I can never remember my aunt not having a garden, except maybe when I was in kindergarten. I don't know if she had a garden in that house. Oh, it looks like I hit an anthill. They're not, my ants are not aggressive. I don't have red ants. They will kind of bite you, but it won't hurt you. Mostly they crawl on you and then makes you go, bleh, heebie-jeebies. And here's some creeping Charlie again. Creeping Charlie going up through the side. It jumps from the lawn into the beds. I know that these wood beds are going to have to be replaced after a while. I'm seeing some deterioration already, but for right now, they're fine. There's some fine weeds around the center blueberry. Which I'll come back for later. I wanna come through these beds again. Like I said, you have to be careful with blueberries because they're shallow rooted. And every plant that you grow will be the exception to the rule. So just remember that. So I could go and dig in the horseradish bed and I will have horseradish next year. I go to dig in this bed and I will be harming these blueberries. Hello, little grasshopper. 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 Okay, anybody else watch the cartoon? Which, as a kid, I didn't know. The grasshopper. Little grasshopper. The two buzzards. I can't remember the show. For some reason, I'm thinking Speedy Gonzales. Maybe that's what. I don't remember. I used to love that show. Okay, so this one I said was Sweetheart. This one, who doesn't have a tag, must be Northberry. Now, these tags don't seem to be deteriorating, so I will leave them in, and I know these tags are older. There is a ton of grass right over here. Okay, and then this one here is, let's see what we got. Ooh, it got caught off. Well, it says VACIO, oh no, VACCINIUM. Something berry. I'm thinking blueberry, but this tag did deteriorate. I do not see anything else. to indicate that the variety. Maybe that's enough on the tag to let me know. I can look it up. Got a number on it, and it says Stark Brothers. This was from 2020, actually. So it must have been in my 2020 garden. I did. It's so funny because I didn't mean to start a big garden in 2020. But what happened was, I retired in 2019 and said, I want to have a big garden. And then the world fell apart in February. And I'm like, well, might as well, you know. And now's the time. Just kind of a little extra push. But I retired in 2019. So 2020 was my first big garden year. So, but that is bed number 75. My blueberries. Enjoy. Happy gardening. And we'll identify that one weed. I think it was this weed. Okay. Happy gardening. That looks so much better, doesn't it? Bye for now.